speaking of capacity and speaking of utilization, one of the other remarkable things about Maruti, of course, as far as the consumer is concerned, affordability, but even as far as the company is concerned, the cost of production hasn't really seen any big spikes or hasn't seen any great degree of volatility. What's been the secret behind that, of ensuring that there is consistency as far as your cost of production is concerned? Of course, raw material costs and so on and so forth, have to be factored in, and they go through their own ups and downs. But what has been the philosophy, the rationale that has kept your cost of production also largely consistent?
See, Suzuki Motor Company was a very small company when we started. And Japanese generally are very conservative in their approach to investments and things. They are not that kind of sort of cowboys. And Mr. Suzuki did not ever think that, of course, he never thought we'd get to this kind of demand.
Yes.
There have been so many periods when I kept saying we need more capacity because the market is growing. And he would hum and haw, but he wouldn't decide because he wanted to actually see the market demand increasing adequately before he put in capacity.
Yeah.
So as you have seen, Shireen, over these years, there have been always number of models which have been in back orders because we've never been able to produce enough. But one of the things of this philosophy was that very little capital which was invested ever remained idle. Not only idle, it reached 100% utilization of capacity within a few months. I had worked in BHEL for 2 years before I joined Maruti. It was assumed in the public sector that 100% capacity utilization was not really possible. And if it happened, it would take several years to reach 100% capacity utilization. The way Mr. Suzuki did it, he always built the downstream facility first before he built the upstream facility. So when the upstream facility was built, the user of that production was always available. So in the factory, there was never unutilized capacity, and it reached 100% very quickly. The same thing happened with cars because he kept capacity constrained so that the market never ran behind our ability to supply. We were always behind the market.
Well, constraining capacity has turned out to be a good thing as far as your story is concerned. But, you're sitting now with a legacy of over 4 decades. You've been able to achieve many milestones. But as you look forward, and part of, leadership is to, of course, take forward the legacy that you have created, but it's also about attacking the future. As you look both at the rear view mirror as well as the mirror in front of you, what do you see as what you will take with you as you move forward? What are the changes that you believe you will need to make to stay relevant?
Shireen, at this stage, one doesn't know how much to look forward to because nobody knows. But I think Suzuki and the new generation of managers who are coming into the company, both in Japan and here, are now very clear that, the Indian market has to be looked at very differently from other markets. It's taken us a long time to convince the Japanese that we are not like others. But I think they realize that the Indian market and Indian conditions are different. And I think they're recognizing that, and they are now beginning to create an organization. We are in the process now of, as we said when we took over the Gujarat facility, that we are in the process of reorganizing our whole working to see how we should go forward to deal with a 4 million car company, because there is no company in the world, and I say in the world, including Toyotas and General Motors and everybody, who's producing and selling 4 million cars in the one market. one market, we will be the largest single market in the world for one company.
Yeah.
And there is no precedent or example to follow on how that should be done. So that's one of the things which we have to now tackle, and I think one of the things which I need to also spend some time thinking about, if I can, as to how to organize ourselves so that we can deal with a 4 million car situation by 2030, 31.
You know, Mr. Bhargav, speaking about the future, and again, this is one of the things that I know has often been asked, why the decision not to get into the EV space? Why is Maruti holding back if the world is moving towards EV and so on and so forth? Do you see things differently, or do you feel vindicated today as you see a sort of scaling back of expectations or estimates or even plans as far as some of the global makers are concerned today? How are you looking at the EV story and your decision not to sort of, you know, enter the party when everybody expected you to do so?
Sheen, yes, we have been, as most people think, somewhat slow in getting into the EV area. Suzuki did try at one time to develop the Wagon R into an electric car. This was many years ago. And they did it. They actually made an electric EV, electric Wagon R. But the price was so high that there's no way of selling it. And they were trying to persuade me that why doesn't Maruti subsidize this by 3 or 4 lakhs a car? I said, no way, I'm not going to subsidize a car to sell cars. What for? So that project was given up. And after that, when this whole thing about electric cars became such a big thing in India, many of us, including me, thought that the Indian customer in the Indian market, in the Indian conditions, were just not capable of accepting electric cars in a large way. Now, it was the way I thought, it was the way I understood a lot of issues, including our electric supply grid and the distribution system, how customers used cars, how they kept the cars and all that. And after all that, my judgment was that EVs are not going to be suitable for a large segment of the market. There is a segment which will happily use EVs, and I think that will happen. But I don't think EVs in India can ever become 100% choice of the customer, at least not for a long, long time to come. And that is why we went into the other alternative technologies, hybrids, CNG. We are now pushing for biogas. I think like Reliance is already getting into biogas. Yeah. We are also getting into biogas in a small way, nothing like Reliance. And so we think that the Indian approach to getting to zero carbon footprint does not lie the EV route alone. It lies through a multiple mix of technologies more suited to Indian conditions. EVs are not environmentally clean anyway, by the way. I hope all of you know that there's a lot of carbon footprint from EVs because of the burning of coal to generate the electricity which drives the car. So it's a fallacy to think that electric cars in India today are clean. It may happen after 10, 15 years when we get more clean energy into it, but not at this present time.